How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Talk Sports Show with Alec Pecano on Friday, January 26th. Let's get right to the show. Here are my college basketball upsets for today. My first upset, and there's only three because it's a lighter slate of college basketball today, but my three upsets, here's my first. Ohio +3 to upset Kent State. This is a game in the MAC. Both these teams are not particularly that good, but I've done my research and I feel really good about picking Ohio +3 to pull off the upset here. Last night we went 3-5 for our upsets. We hit the parlay if you didn't see, and we won people some money. My second upset is Michigan State +3 to upset Wisconsin. Again, this is in Wisconsin. This is at Wisconsin. But the Big Ten, the road team in the Big Ten tends to win a lot, and this is a ranked versus an unranked. So if Michigan State pulls off the upset, they might end up in the rankings next week, which I will be working on those rankings Sunday morning, so they could come out Monday on the show. And my third upset is Utah Valley +6.5 to upset Seattle. I like this upset for one reason. I think Utah Valley is due to upset somebody. And I hope it's tonight. And my free play of the night in college basketball is Niagara -2.5 against versus Marist. I think Niagara covers this easily. And for those of you that don't know, tomorrow night is the Royal Rumble. Here's the match card so far for the Rumble and my predicted winners for some of the matches, for a couple of the matches, and the Rumble. So the United States title is on the line between Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. And if you didn't see the other day on YouTube, there's a video that came out of Logan Paul and Kevin Owens actually shoot fighting. And as much as I'd love Kevin Owens to win tomorrow night, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Logan Paul is going to cheat, and he's going to end up winning and retaining the United States Championship. Now the 30-man Royal Rumble, and my pick to win that, I originally had Cody Rhodes, but I pivoted to the second best choice to win the Rumble, and that would be, I think the Royal Rumble winner is going to end up being CM Punk, because he wants to finish his story in main event WrestleMania. Now, there's a multitude of ways you could go with choosing the Rumble winner. You could choose CM Punk. You could choose Gunther. You could choose Drew McIntyre. You could choose Cody Rhodes. Even though I don't think Cody's winning the Rumble this year, the undisputed Universal title match between LA Knight, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns. I think I love Randy. I'd love somebody to pin Roman and beat him. But unfortunately, I think we all know what the outcome of this match is going to be. I think Roman's going to win. He's going to use some tactics. It is a fatal four-way match, which means anything goes, basically. There's no countouts, no DQ. I believe. So Roman's cousins, Jimmy and Solo, could get involved in the match, which we all know the shenanigans of Roman during his title reign is that he can never win alone. He always has to use his two little goons. It used to be three, but Jey Uso broke off and went on a singles run by himself. So therefore, it's Roman, Solo, and Jimmy. And I'm gonna call it right now. At some point this year, Solo's going to turn his back and stab Roman Reigns in the back. When it happens, come back to this video and comment and say, Alec, you were right on that. And in the Royal Rumble match for the women, I think the winner is going to be Liv Morgan. Again, with the women's Rumble, there is a lot of people you could choose. You could choose Nia Jax. You could choose Becky Lynch. You could choose Liv Morgan. I could keep going. You could choose Bianca Belair. You could choose somebody from NXT. Raquel Rodriguez, who we haven't seen in a long time. But I'm going Liv Morgan because I think she's going to be one of the returns that nobody's talking about. And I think she's going to win the Women's Rumble. Now, with that being said, there is probably other matches that will be added to the card. So we just have to wait and see. But here are my NBA upset picks for tonight. My first one, and you get 3 with this one as well, because there's a lot more games on the slate for the NBA tonight. So, my first NBA upset is the Indiana Pacers plus 4.5 to upset the Phoenix Suns. Now, you may call me crazy for saying this is going to be an upset, because the Suns avoided the upset the other night, but I think it's a back-to-back. So I think the Suns are on upset alert again, and I think they might get upset this time. You got my second upset for the NBA is the Cleveland Cavaliers plus 5.5 to upset the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I tried this earlier in the week, and it failed. We are going back to the well again with this pick. I think Cleveland can pull the upset here. I don't know why. I just do. And then my last NBA upset is the Toronto Raptors plus 7.5 to upset the LA Clippers. Now, do I think this one might happen? I don't think it does. But you never know. Anything can happen in the NBA. And my free play in the NBA tonight is the Orlando Magic minus 5.5 against the Memphis Grizzlies. If you have noticed, the Grizzlies have been playing really bad of late. And I don't think they're going to stand a chance against Orlando. And now here's my underdog slip. You win if you get 2 out of 3 right, you win money. If you get all 3 right, you win $90. It is Victor Wembanyama, higher than 0.5 point. Paolo Banchero, higher than 7.5 rebounds. And Vince Williams Jr., higher than 13.5 points. Again, that is Wembanyama, Wemby, higher than 0.5 point. That's the free square on underdog. Paolo Banchero, higher than 7.5 rebounds. And Vince Williams Jr., higher than 13.5 points. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I will be giving you every Power 5 head coach that got hired in this coaching cycle in college football. I will be grading them from 12 to 1. For me, at number 12 is Manny Diaz. And we've seen him as a head coach before, and he didn't really work as a head coach. So I'm giving him a D minus. I don't think this is a bad hire. I just don't know how long it's going to take for Duke to be able to compete in the ACC. Number 11, Trent Bray. C minus. Now, I understand what Oregon State was doing here. They didn't want to lose a lot of guys in the portal because they lost Jonathan Smith to Michigan State, but you're going to see them later on in these rankings. But I gave it a C plus for one reason. I think it's going to take time for Oregon State to be good again. They're not in the conference, and two, Trent Bray was the defense coordinator. The only reason they hired him is because they didn't want a mass exodus in the transfer portal. That's the only reason I think Trent Bray got hired, is because they wanted guys to stay. At number 10, Brett Brennan, Arizona, C minus. Now, here's my one problem with Brett Brennan. He was he was a good head coach for San Jose State, and he brought over some of his luggage with him in terms of coaching staff. So, but I think this is another one that's going to take a little bit of time for the fans to get used to and the players to get used to. At number 9, Jeff Lebby, Mississippi State, B minus. I was not surprised when Lebby got the head coaching job with Mississippi State. They needed a head coach. Let's just be frank here. Zach Arnett was not a good head coach. And the only reason they hired him is because they didn't have time to go out and interview somebody for their head coaching job last off season. When, rest in peace, Mike Leach, when he passed away. So that's why Arnett was the coach for a year, and then he got axed. And Levy's not a head coach, which, again, I really like. I think it's going to open their offense a lot more. And Mississippi State's going to win a few games this year in his first year. At number 8, Mike Elko, Texas A&M, B plus. This guy was the defensive coordinator for Texas A&M a couple years ago. I love this hire for A&M. He's going to bring his own culture, and I understand what some people are going to say. This is he's off the Jimbo Fisher coaching tree. I get that. But what y'all need to understand is Texas A&M's AD at the time, Ross Bjork, hired him, but now they're looking for a new AD because Ross Bjork is now the athletic director at Ohio State. At number 7, Willie Fritz, Houston. This gets an A minus from me. And the only reason it gets an A minus is because I need to see what Willie Fritz is capable of at the Power 5 level. He was with Tulane the last couple years, and I'm not going to say it didn't. He did really well at Tulane, but Can he keep up that same success in the Power 5? At number 6, Kirk Cignetti, Indiana, B+. I like this hire a whole lot for Indiana. I think Indiana is going to be competing, and they're going to be good within the next 2 or 3 years. You saw what Kirk Cignetti did the last 2 years with James Madison. This year they started undefeated in Sunbelt, and then they ended up losing a couple games. But I think he can do the same thing with Indiana if he's already in the building, of course, but once he gets a year or two under his belt at IU, I think he can help Indiana compete in the Big Ten. I'm not going to say win the Big Ten because you still got Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, all being in the Big Ten. But I think he can help them be competitive. At number 5, Jedd Fisch, Washington, the new Washington head coach, B+. I love this hire for Washington. They lost Kalen DeBoer to Alabama, and they immediately went out and got Jedd Fisch from Arizona, which Arizona, I'm surprised they didn't have more kids jump in the portal than, I think they only had 6 or 7 kids jump in the portal after Jedd Fisch left to take the job at Washington. But I like the hire. I think Washington's still gonna be competitive, even though they're going to the Big Ten. At number 4, Kalen DeBoer, Alabama, B-. I like this hire for Alabama, even though they had a mass exodus of players in the transfer portal. They lost a lot. They lost 2 guys to Ohio State, and they lost a bunch more to other teams. Like I said, I do like the hire though. I think Alabama fans, be patient. I know Kalen DeBoer's only been coaching in the Power 5 for 2 years, but I think if you be patient, you'll reap and you will see the benefits of what Kalen DeBoer can do. At number 3, Jonathan Smith, Michigan State, B++. Yes, I gave him an extra plus because I really like this hire for Michigan State. And here's the one thing I'm going to say before I give you my little tangent on why Jonathan Smith's going to be good. Michigan State fans, patient. Be patient. The first couple years are going to be tough. But if you look at what Jonathan Smith did with Oregon State, he can do the same thing with you if you just be patient and give him a little bit of time. But no, I think Jonathan Smith was, and I don't use this word for many coaching hires, I think this was a home run hire for Michigan State. And it gets them away from the whole Mel Tucker situation. But I like this hire a lot. Number 2, David Braun, Northwestern. Praise to you, Northwestern. You didn't let David Braun go interview for other jobs. You took the interim head coaching tag off of him and made him the permanent head coach at Northwestern. And I don't know if I said the grade I give this A plus. I give it an A plus grade because nobody, including me last year, going into the season, had any expectations for y'all to do anything at all. I'm going to admit it right now, I was wrong. I only had Northwestern winning 2 games last year. Because nobody knew about David Braun. We knew he was a defensive coordinator, but we didn't know that he was going to be a really, really good head coach. And at number 1, Fran Brown, Syracuse. A plus plus. Which basically means that this is the best hire from me, in my opinion, in the offseason and in this coaching cycle for college football. Now, Michigan did lose Harbaugh, and I will talk about that in the segment after the next one, and who I think their head coach should be next. But I love this hire for Syracuse. And look what he did immediately after getting to Syracuse. He got a bunch of transfer portal kids to transfer to Syracuse. And to me, that shows that Syracuse is going to be competitive this year in the in the in the ACC in a weak conference. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Ohio State hiring Bill O'Brien. And before I get started with this, if you're enjoying the video, please leave a thumbs up. Let's try to get this to 50 likes for another episode, which would be the Royal Rumble episode. Royal Rumble live stream reaction is tomorrow night at 8 on YouTube, Twitch, and Patreon. But for Ohio State, I'm glad they went outside the program to look for an offensive coordinator. And I think Bill O'Brien, I'm not going to say home run, but I think this is a really good hire for the Buckeyes. If you look at what he did at Alabama as the offensive coordinator for 2 years, they scored 31 points one year and 40 points the other year that he was there. And he parlayed that into becoming the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. And we all know how that went. Not too well. But then he was the coach of Penn State with the whole Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky, that whole debacle. But I think this is a really, really good hire for the Buckeyes. And now, here are my 3 choices for the next head coach for Michigan. Number 3, Rich Rodriguez. Rich Rodriguez was the head coach of Michigan at one point. And I think they could, if they reached out to Rich Rodriguez again to get him to become the head coach, I think he'd take it. I think he'd take the job in a heartbeat. Number 2, and you can either disagree or agree with me, but let's debate about it in the comments down below of this video. But number 2 is, I was going to say Jesse Minter, but it sounds like he's going with Harbaugh to the NFL. And I will tell you about the 3 new coaching hires in a second for the NFL. But with this, so number 2 would be former Michigan State head coach Mark D'Antonio. Now, I know what you're going to say, Michigan fans. No, we don't want Mark D'Antonio. Hear me out. I understand he coached at Michigan State, and that's your biggest rival. But he could give you the ins and outs of beating Michigan State every year. And 2, He's a really good recruiter. And number one, the most obvious head choice for head coach for Michigan State, Sherrone Moore. Sherrone Moore. He was the head coach for 6 games for Michigan last year. 3 at the beginning of the season, 3 at the end. And yes, he did beat Ohio State. Even though I put an asterisk next to it, and I'm not going to explain why. Just go back and look at old videos where I explain why I don't think it's right what Michigan was doing. But that's besides the point. Sherrone Moore is the most logical option here for Michigan to be their next head coach. And here's my way too early 2024 games that I think could be upsets this year in college football. The first one, week 0 in Dublin, Ireland. Georgia Tech, Florida State. I am putting, this is way too early. You will get my week 1. You will get upsets for college football when the season starts in September. But this is a week 0 game. And I think Georgia Tech, I think Florida State's an upset alert. I don't know how much I trust DJU. And you may see Florida State on here a couple more times. I just don't know how much I trust DJ Uiagalelei. Because like I said when I was doing my top 25 the other day, he's been at 2 other schools and has done decent. But here, I don't know if I could trust him at Florida State. So I think Georgia Tech might pull the upset here in week 0 in Dublin. Week 1. There's 2 games in week 1 that I think could be upsets. Number 1 is Clemson and Georgia. I think Georgia might be on upset alert. I know they reloaded in the offseason, but I think they're still on upset alert for me because we don't know what the new guys are going to look like for Georgia. And I think Clemson can pull the upset here. I'm back on that Clemson hype train. And when I do my conference previews in July and August, you may see Clemson kind of high in the ACC standings. But in the other game in week 1 that I have as an upset potential is Boston College versus Miami. Boston College versus Florida State. Yes, I told you. You might see FSU on here at least once or twice, and this is the second time you've seen them on here. I think Florida State might get upset by Boston College. Week 2, there is 3 games in week 2 that I think could be upsets this year. Number 1 is the obvious one. It's the one I'm going to. South Florida and Alabama. I'm going to say this. South Florida would have beaten Alabama last year if there was no weather delay. If there wasn't a weather delay, I think USF pulls the upset. And I think they're going to get Alabama. I think they're going to upset Bama this year. Because Bama does not have Saban. And it's Kalen DeBoer. It's his first year as head coach. And I think South Florida goes into Tuscaloosa and upsets Alabama. Number 2 upset is NC State over Tennessee. Tennessee fans, cover your ears. I'm sorry. I'm putting you on upset alert in week 2 against NC State. NC State really went in in the transfer portal and did a lot of good things in the portal. And I think that NC State is going to be good this year in the ACC. Michigan fans, it's your turn. Close your ears on this one. Texas versus Michigan, week 3. Week 2. I think Texas upsets Michigan. Michigan has lost a lot. They lost their head coach. They lost Blake Corum. They lost J.J. McCarthy. They're replacing a lot on offense and defense, and they're replacing their head coach and defensive coordinator and special teams coach. So therefore, I think this is a prime spot for Texas to pull the upset. Week 3, you got Memphis. Here's a couple upsets I like in week 3 of college football. The first one is Memphis versus Florida State. I think Memphis can pull the upset here. This is the 3rd time you've heard me say Florida State's an upset alert going into this year. I think there's a chance Memphis can beat FSU. Now, I might be crazy, but I think Memphis can pull the upset here and beat Florida State. And my last one for week 3 is Miami of Ohio to upset Cincinnati. And I called this upset last year, and nobody wanted to give me credit for it. I think Miami of Ohio does it for the 2nd year in a row. And if they're favored, this one gets sliced off the upset meter. But if they're not favored and Cincinnati is, I'll take Miami all day to pull the upset. In week 4, we've got Washington and Northwestern. I think Northwestern is going to be really good this year, and I think they can pull a few upsets. And one of them being against Washington, because Washington does have a new head coach and a new quarterback. They have Will Rogers at quarterback now. It's not Michael Penix Jr. My second upset of week 4 is South Florida to upset Miami of Florida. Yes, you see South Florida on here twice. I think they're going to be really good this year. And I've already done their way too early schedule prediction. And I have them going 9-3. Losing to UTSA, losing to Alabama, and losing to somebody else. It's not Miami. But before the season starts, again, every conference gets their own day of the week for the college football show in August to preview their conference. And I give you who I think's going to win the conference and what teams I think are going to be improved and what teams I think are going to be not improved. And my last upset is JMU, James Madison. I know they have a new head coach, but I think they can upset North Carolina. I like this upset a lot. And when the lines come out for that game, when the line comes out for the JMU North Carolina game, I will take it all day. Now I'm going to talk about the new Los Angeles Chargers head coach, Jim Harbaugh. Now, I called this in the offseason of the college football season last year. I said Harbaugh had one more year left in Michigan. If they didn't win the national championship, he was going to bolt to the NFL. Well, that did happen, minus not winning the national championship. Michigan won the national championship. But Harbaugh still bolted to the NFL, and he's the new head coach of the Chargers. I love this hire I like this hire a lot for the Chargers. A lot. I think it's a really good hire. He could work with Herbert. He could work with Justin Herbert and the young receivers and Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis, and help develop them into becoming really good NFL wide receivers. And he brought over some of his Louis luggage from Michigan. He brought his special teams coach Jay Harbaugh, and he brought his defense coordinator Jesse Minter. Again, I like this hire a whole lot for the Chargers. The next one I'm going to talk about is Raheem Morris being hired as a new head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I have to go on a mini rant here. Why did it take 3 years for somebody to give Raheem Morris another coaching opportunity? It's dumbfounding that it took 3 years for somebody to give Raheem Morris another chance to be a head coach. It really is. But sorry for that little rant. I like the hire a lot here for the Falcons. I think he's going to help that defense continue to be good, and he's actually going to get an offensive coordinator that's going to utilize Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. And they're going to draft a quarterback. They're not going to stick with... If they stick with Desmond Ridder, I don't know what to tell you. In fantasy or as a real-life Falcons fan. Because I'm a Buccaneers fan. So I feel your pain, Atlanta. And personally, my favorite hire of the offseason of the coaching cycle so far in the NFL. And a shocking move, the Carolina Panthers hired Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales to be their new head coach. Now, here's the problem with this. And you guys can tell me what you think in the comments down below on YouTube or Twitch. Patreon people, if you want to comment, you have to come directly to YouTube or go over to Twitch and you can comment on the videos. But I don't think... I loved it. Dave Canales was my favorite offensive coordinator the Buccaneers had. But I don't think he's going to last long in Carolina because David Tepper, the owner, has a short fuse with coaches. Look at what happened to Frank Reich. Frank Reich didn't even get through the whole season, and he got fired. I think the same thing, unfortunately, might happen to Dave Canales. Because Carolina's not really good. They're not that good. Let's just face it. They are not good. And now, if you're joining on Patreon, thank you. But for those of you on YouTube and Twitch, don't feel scared to join the Patreon. It is completely free of charge unless you want premium, which is $2 a month. But you get all the same stuff with the free version of Patreon that you would get with the premium. You get videos like this. You get waiver wire cheat sheets. You get my rankings for college football every week. You get my rankings for the NFL draft, position by position, by top 10 players at each position. And you get a lot more. That's one of the spots the Royal Rumble will be streaming on tomorrow night, as well as YouTube and Twitch. But before I get to the last thing, I won't be able to play the live feed from the Royal Rumble on the stream because on YouTube that could get copyrighted, but you will see my reactions to the Rumble. So, and here's the last thing we're going to talk about. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull it up. You see this nice little join button right here? You click on that. And you click on whatever membership you want. There's the opener level, which is 99 cents a month. There's the Talk Sports starter level, which is $4.99 a month. There's the premium, which is $9.99. And the expert level, which is $14.99. And whichever one you choose, you get perks. Priority reply comments for this one. The starter level, you get virtual video collabs, chance to be guest on the show. Premium, you get to compete in fantasy football leagues and baseball leagues with me. First access. In the expert level, if you get that, the neat thing about that is you get members only live streams and a chance to be the full-time co-host on the Talk Sports show with me. And you get to debate and tell me what I'm wrong about and what I'm right about. And we can have fun. So that's one thing. The next is my merch store. Here's the merch store. This is all the merch I have. Everything here is what you see. That's all the merch. If you're on Twitch and you want to buy some merch, come on over to YouTube and buy it. It is extremely cost effective other than the sweatpants. The joggers are $60. Everything else is a reasonable price. Crewneck, $40, $50 for that. 50. I would appreciate if y'all purchase some merch and then over on Instagram you send me a DM wearing the merch at Alec Thomas Pecano 24. And outside of YouTube, if you have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram or comment on any of the videos. And I look at my comment section all the time to see who's commented on videos, and I reply. But, ladies and gentlemen, my lovely Talk Sports family, that does it for today's video. This is the Talk Sports Show signing off. I will see y'all tomorrow night for the Royal Rumble live stream at 8 o'clock.